Andy Levine here, your host of the Second Act Stories podcast. At the beginning of each new year, my co-host Scott Merritt and I select the best episode of the past year, and we reshare it one more time. So for 2024, we had a lot of great choices, but at the top of the list was Scott's interview with Amy Siewe. Amy traded in her career as a successful real estate broker to hunt pythons in the Florida Everglades. At 5 foot 4 inches and 120 pounds, she captures pythons as big as 180 pounds by jumping on them and wrestling them into submission. We hope you enjoy the Python Huntress episode. We've got more great episodes in the works for the year ahead.
Which of your two careers is more stressful?
Oh, real estate, hands down. Absolutely. This is just, all of it's fun. Here's the thing that I think I should probably also explain. I loved real estate. I was good at real estate. I had no intention of switching careers. And then it's like, once I figured this out, once I learned about these pythons and I caught my first one, I knew this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I was meant to be doing with my life. So I don't know. It's just, it's a very interesting life, I guess.
Welcome to the Webby Award-nominated Second Act Stories podcast. I'm your host, Scott Merritt.
And I'm Scott's co-host, Andy Levine.
So, Andy, this is an interesting one today. How do you feel about snakes?
Wow. Snakes are not my favorite animal in the world. I much prefer puppies and a whole bunch of other animals that would be on the list before snakes. But I suspect this second act has something to do with snakes, so let's hear about it.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about any old snakes. We're talking about pythons, like really big snakes. So for today's episode, I ventured down to Naples, Florida, right near the Everglades. And I met with Amy Siewe, who sure looks like the real estate broker that she used to be. But when she decided that career didn't have enough danger, she left it behind and is now a full-time python hunter in the Everglades.
Wow, a python hunter. I am, first of all, so glad that you did this episode and I didn't have to do it. But let's not waste any time. I want to hear about Amy's story, and I think everyone else does too.
Before we get into this super interesting life that you're leading right now, I want to talk to you about the first career that you had, which by all accounts seems far more mainstream and normal to a lot of people. Tell me about your first career.
When I graduated from the University of Toledo, I got a job in telecommunications as a sales rep. And then after that, I went on to become an ops manager for a financial institution. And then I got into real estate. So that's what I've done for the majority of my life is real estate.
What was it about that was appealing to you?
I think I worked the corporate 9 to 5, and I don't do very well in that situation when I'm not the boss. So real estate was really booming back then. Gosh, this was back in, I think, 2005, 6. And it just seemed like something that I really wanted to do.
So you did that for 13 years. And what was great about it?
What I loved about real estate was that I was free to run my business the way that I wanted to, and that I could work as hard as I wanted to. And I mean, because I'm a pretty hard worker, and I saw a lot in the corporate world that, you get a lot of lazy people, and you got a lot of the employees that would work for me. And, it was just such a battle all the time. And for real estate, it was more freeing, and I could really take it to any level that I wanted to. And I think that's what appealed to me the most.
So it was having, let's say, this control over your own destiny.
Yes.
Which is a factor that plays into the rest of your life as well. Tell me about how the python thing happened. Like, what was your first experience with snakes?
Well, my first experience with snakes was when I was little, and this kind of got me into my whole, this hobby that I had. My dad put me into a creek when I was little, and he taught me how to catch all kinds of critters, including snakes. And I just had, from a very young age, just this fascination with snakes. I thought they were the coolest thing. We didn't see them all that often. So I think that was part of the allure to it too, was that, they're kind of rare to see. And when we did, it was just such a treat.
So what did you do when you spotted one?
Well, I'd catch it. And I'd, play with it. And it's, this cool thing. It would bite me a few times, of course. And then we'd let him go. And then I keep walking and try to find another one.
What kinds of snakes were you catching?
So this was in the Midwest. This was in Ohio, and it was just little like northern water snakes and garter snakes, and sometimes we'd see a big 5-foot black rat snake, which was pretty cool. But that's about it. We don't really, we have a couple of venomous snakes in Ohio, but they're very elusive, and I've never seen one in Ohio.
So there wasn't a real existential danger to finding and catching and playing with a snake.
No. And it's funny because when we go snake hunting, we call it snake hunting really anywhere in the United States besides Florida, you're going out to catch the snakes, observe them, admire them, and let them go. That's what snake hunting is. You're not killing the snakes ever. So that's the big difference, in snake hunting and python hunting.
That's an interesting distinction. Were there other critters, wildlife that were, that you loved playing with, or conversely, that you hated being around?
Well, it was pretty much all reptiles and amphibians. I mean, mainly snakes, but I just had this fascination with all of them. I thought they were just so cool. And I will tell you, I don't do bugs. Don't do bugs. No spiders. No centipedes, no creepy crawlers. So I'm not into that. People think just because I like snakes, I should like spiders. Not the case at all.
I think everybody can kind of wrap their arms around what a career working in real estate looks like. Leaving that career that can be very lucrative and has a certain amount of safety attached to it to do something that has probably much less earning potential and no real safety to it. How do you get to the point where you're making the decision to say, okay, I'm going to leave that behind and I'm going to do that less safe, less lucrative thing?
That's the most interesting question, but I think I need to back up a little bit because I think the thing that people have to understand is that snakes have always been a part of my world, including in college. So when I graduated from college, it was more, okay, I should probably, be a little more career oriented. And there wasn't anything really that could make me money that I enjoyed doing in the reptile world, right? So it was just always a hobby after that, which was fine. And I traveled to different parts of the US to, go snake hunting and, go catch snakes and admire them and let them go. And just because it's fun and just because that's what I did. So what happened was I found out that there were pythons in Florida. Now, you have to understand that when we go out and we are looking for snakes, the bigger the better, the more rare the better. That's what we're looking for. So when I found out that these pythons were here, I said, oh my gosh, I've got to come and see what the heck this is all about. And so Dave and I, my fiance, we took a vacation in January of 2019. We came down here. I went on a hunt with one of my now friends, Donna, and we caught a 9-foot python. At that moment, I knew this is it. This is 100% what I'm supposed to be doing.
So you're doing a leisure activity, and just like that, it was like getting your first hit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you could say that. It was. I just knew because I thought, now I can use this crazy passion that I have as more than just a hobby, and I can help Florida with this colossal problem.
But how does that passion transform into what winds up being a career? How does a career like this even wind up on your radar?
When we got back from Florida, back to Indiana, about a week later, I told Dave, I said, I got to go. I got to go to Florida. There's nothing that I can do from Indiana that is going to help me become a python hunter. I have to go. And he was like, I know. I was just wondering when you were going to tell me. So he already knew that this was on the table, right? But it was just this overwhelming feeling and the sense of urgency that I had that I have to be there. But the thing is, I didn't know what the opportunities were. I had no idea. So when I moved here, literally less than 2 months after I got back from my vacation, I sold my database. I packed up a few things. I was here in Florida and just trying to figure out what the heck. I didn't even know where to hunt pythons. I didn't really know where to go or what to do. I had no idea about anything. So I just had to come down here and figure it out.
Obviously, it was 2 weeks, so it couldn't have been too much. But how much research did you put into it? Or was it just like, I have to do that again and I'm going to go?
There wasn't a lot of information at the time because this was still a pretty new thing, the python hunting. So when I got down here, I'm used to going 24/7, and then I get here and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, what do I do? So I started networking. I just started going online and finding people that had anything to do with pythons and calling them and saying, hey, tell them who I am. I want to be a python hunter. What do I have to do? What do I have to know? Who do I have to know? And if they didn't know, they'd give me somebody else. So I just created this huge network of people that I got to know. So I just had to go and figure this all out.
Okay, let me back up for a second, just because we need to establish why python hunters exist or need to exist in Florida. What is the problem?
Pythons are an invasive species, and they are not supposed to be in Florida. They are actually originally from Southeast Asia, and they are here. Well, there's controversy on how they're here, but the bottom line is it is because of the pet industry. The Burmese python were a very popular pet because they were very nice. I mean, they had a very mild disposition. And the problem with these pythons, though, is that they get to be 20 feet long. So when you have a snake that's 2 feet, when you get it as a hatchling, and it grows to be 10 or 12 feet, that's a whole different ballgame. It's a bigger cage. They're harder to handle. It's you have to feed it rabbits and things now. So people would say, I can't handle this thing anymore. I don't want to kill it, but I want it to go live a long, happy life in the Everglades. So they would let it go. So right now, there's an estimated 500,000 of them out there, probably more. And the reason that there's such an issue is because they are the apex predator and they have a voracious appetite. So they have eaten 98% of the mammals in parts of the Everglades. So this is a big, big, big problem.
I guess there's no eradicating the issue, right?
No,
you'll never
way
get rid
beyond
of them.
that. Yeah, way too late for that.
So the state pays people who do what you do to, I guess, keep the population in check?
Not even that. I don't even know if we're really making a dent at all, maybe in some areas. But at the end of the day, since the beginning of these programs in 2017, collectively, these agencies have caught about 22,000 pythons. And that's it. I mean, that's not a lot in comparison to the 500,000 that are out there, and the fact that they lay 20 to 40 eggs on average per year, and the big females can lay over 100 eggs. So this is a problem that's out of control.
What is the solution?
We do not know. Python hunters are the most effective method right now.
Okay, so let me zero in on the financial security aspect of it, right? There's probably plenty of financial security in selling real estate if you're good at it.
Of course.
You make a lot of money.
100%.
Working for the state, okay, we know that governments don't really pay well to begin with, no matter what you do. And then you're a contractor who's doing this really niche thing for the state. I'm guessing that you weren't making like a really big living doing that.
No, not even a little bit. No, I made, as a top hunter for the state of Florida, I made less than $20,000 a year.
Okay, which is unsustainable to live a life, right?
For sure.
You get to feed your passion, but you also have to feed your mouth.
Right.
How do you build a business out of hunting pythons?
Well, I took a lot of different roads to try to get it figured out. The first one I thought, maybe I didn't want the animals to go to waste, so I thought, some people were skinning them. So I thought, maybe this could be a thing. But the problem is once you get past your reach of social media and things, it turns into a product that people don't know that they need or they want. So then you have to put big marketing dollars behind it and marketing campaigns, to get this sold. So it was a lot. And once I got all of this figured out, I was like, I'm not it doesn't make sense to spend more money on this. I need to figure out a different way to do this. So at that point, we would go to these islands in the summer or in the wintertime to hunt pythons, to find the breeding balls and the breeding aggregations and the pythons basking in the sun. We take a boat, and my fiance has his captain's license. So since we were doing that anyways, I thought, maybe people would want to pay to go catch pythons with me. And boy, did they ever.
Tell me about that business. What does that look like now? How did you build it?
If I did not have experience with my real estate business, I would not be successful at it. So it was like everything that I did up until this point prepared me to be able to be successful at this. I'm very, very grateful that I know how to do it properly.
Who's the typical person that books a python hunt?
The cool thing is there's no typical. I get people who have hunted big game all over the world. I get families. One family decided not to go to Disney World and come python hunting with me, which I thought was pretty cool. I get fathers and sons. I get husbands and wives. I get people that live here, like right here in Florida, that have gone out hunting 3 or 4 times and have not ever even seen one. So they want to learn how to do it properly. So I have all kinds of people.
You now have this successful business. Have you gotten to a point with the growth of your business where it doesn't seem crazy to have left real estate behind?
I never looked back. It's never once seemed crazy. Even when I'm, making a little fraction of what I was making in real estate, it's never, ever occurred to me that I wanted to go back and do that. It was all about going forward with this and figuring this out. And I know there's money to be made. I just need to figure out how I need to do it.
You're really wrestling a snake, right?
Oh, yeah.
A big snake. Tell me what it's like. Tell me what you do.
I think the first really good battle was actually with Dave and I. And Dave, my fiance, he's not a snake guy. He respects it, but he's like, yeah, you catch a snake, like you do your thing. So he would drive me around, but he would never help me catch them until we went to the islands. And we're on this island and there's a 14.5-foot snake laying there. And I was like, babe, I think I'm gonna need your help on this one. This is a really big one. So I jump on it, and I'm telling you, this thing kicked our butts everywhere. She is wrapping us. She is throwing us all around. And I mean, it was a battle. And finally she wore out. So she's and once the snakes wear out, they just kind of lay there. It's almost like they're dead. And so she's laying there. I'm laying on top of her. Dave's against the tree. We're all huffing and puffing. And he was like, yeah, that was pretty cool. I think I could get into this.
So you're not gigantic, right?
I'm 5'4", 120. Everybody always asks.
Okay, you're 5'4", 120. You seem like you're reasonably physically fit, but at 5'4", 120 pounds, I mean, you're not like bulging with muscles all over the place. So how do you wrestle a 17-foot snake that we all know is really, really strong, right, and is fighting you for its life?
Right. Well, so here's what happened. I know that I can't overpower a 17-foot python. Most guys can't do that either. I'm just the one that admits it. So I had to figure out what happened. Was I was very first couple months that I was hired, there was a 16-footer. I was by myself. I couldn't get her. I mean, I tried. I mean, I couldn't even get my both hands around her neck. Like usually I catch a snake with one hand around their neck and then grab their tail, and it is what it is, because the majority of the snakes we catch are between 6 and 9 feet. This is a 16-footer, and I'm like, oh my, and there's no way that I could get the snake. I didn't even know, how was I gonna get her in the bag? I had no idea. So I had to let her go, and I hated that so much. And I went back and I said, that's never gonna happen again. I know I'm going to be hunting by myself again. So how am I going to prevent this? How am I going to get the next big one? And so I thought about when I worked at the vet, we used to put a dark cloth over animals' eyes or over their faces to calm them down when they were, freaking out. So I thought, I wonder if that could work for a snake. So I totally randomly, had this 6 by 6 inch black drawstring bag hanging on my closet. So I saw that and I thought, I wonder if this could work. So I practiced it with a couple of 13 and 14 footers. So I would grab the snake and put the bag on and secure it, and the snake would just stop. Like, it would just stop moving. It was the craziest thing. And so I said, awesome, I'll do this. So when I caught the 17 footer by myself, it was at night, same situation as before, but she was a big snake. And so I pull over when I see her, and I get out of the truck, and I've got, my little head bag is what I call it. So first of all, she's 17 feet. I know where she is. And she ended up putting her head down in the grass, and I couldn't find her for a good minute or two. That's how camouflage these things are. And so I finally saw her pattern through the grass, and I followed it up to her head about 2 feet, and I saw her head, and it was the biggest head on a snake that I'd ever seen in my life. And I'm standing there with this like little tiny head back, and I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? But you can't hesitate. So I jumped on her, and I couldn't see her body. I had no idea how big she was. And so I'm sitting there, I'm on top of her, and my arms are locked out. I'm like behind her. I've got my hands behind her jaws. My arms are locked out. I'm literally using my lower body to push her up because she was trying to shimmy back into the swamp. And she wasn't trying to wrap me, thank God. I don't know why, but she wasn't. She was just trying to back up. So I was using every ounce of energy to keep her from doing that. At the same time, I'm trying to fit this bag over her head without letting her jaws come up, because if she opens her mouth, then she'll get more leverage, and I'd probably lose control of her. So I'm trying to do all of this, and then finally I get this bag over her head, and she just stopped.
How much does a 17-foot python weigh?
Well, so the one I caught, she was 17.3 and 110 pounds.
So they have you outweighed on top of everything else.
Yeah.
And they're just pure muscle.
Oh, pure muscle.
That's insane. How many have you captured?
I'm at 546, I think, right now.
So have there been any close calls?
It's always dangerous because you just never know. The good thing about this is that these pythons they're not people eaters. We're not on the menu. Is there one out there that might say, hey, this girl looks like a good snack? I don't know. So far, I haven't found it, which is good. But the danger is always there, but it's not in the fact that the pythons are going to try to eat us.
Which of your two careers is more stressful?
Oh, real estate, hands down. Absolutely. This is just, all of it's fun. Here's the thing that I think I should probably also explain. I loved real estate. I was good at real estate. I had no intention of switching careers. That was not on the radar, not ever. I mean, I wasn't thinking, oh, well, maybe I should be doing something else with my life. That was never a thought. And then it's like, once I figured this out, once I learned about these pythons and I caught my first one, I knew this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I was meant to be doing with my life. So I don't know. It's just, it's a very interesting life, I guess.
What advice would you give to somebody who's maybe on the fence about pursuing a second act career, especially one that's wildly different from what they were doing before?
If they're supposed to be doing it, they will figure it out. So I would say that when you know, and there truly aren't any obstacles. If you want it, you will figure it out. And it's not like you're going to have to sacrifice much either.
Well, that is one that I don't think will be repeated for a long time, Scott. This is a pretty amazing second act that you've uncovered here.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was fun. Amy's an amazing woman, and I just can't believe that she does what she does for a living, but she loves doing it, and that's, I guess, all that really matters.
Let me hit you with a couple of questions here. So, first of all, what do you think was the real motivator behind this, amazing career shift?
Amy was pretty clear that from a young age, she was exposed to all kinds of wildlife, including snakes. And she's just always had this innate passion for being around them. And she's not afraid of them like you and I are. So she loves being around them. She loves working with them, and it was just such a draw that she couldn't see herself not doing it. As soon as she caught that bug, she made her way to the Everglades and started doing this for a living.
Now, from some of the photos that you shared, pythons, these are big animals. Like, how long do these grow sometimes?
Well, Amy caught a 17-footer. I mean, that's not nothing. That's like 180 pounds of snake.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's like a couple of Shaquille O'Neals. But anyway, these are dangerous animals. And Amy's a pretty petite woman. How does she manage to do this and not get seriously hurt?
Well, she definitely has some methods, and she does, as much as you can practice safety working with snakes in the Everglades, she practices safety, but she also has a team that she works with. And so she's not just flying solo. She's got support. And if she encounters a gigantic snake and she really wants to catch a 20-footer, I don't know why, but that's her goal. She's going to have the support system there to help her wrangle a 20-foot python.
So final question here. During the course of this interview, did you encounter any snakes?
The answer is yes. Amy has a pet. It's a red-tail boa, but it's an albino, so there's no red tail. I don't know how long it is, probably 5 or 6 feet. And she took it out, and I took one for the team, and I did hold it. I figured if I'm ever going to hold a snake, it's going to be in the presence of somebody who knows how to save my life if it attacks me.
Okay, well, good for you, Scott, and good for taking one for the team. Why don't we wrap this up here?
Sure. If you want to learn more about Amy, the Python Huntress, you can look her up at thepythonhuntress.com, or you can follow her on social media.
If you have someone that you think might be a good candidate for Second Act Stories, perhaps even yourself, I'd encourage you to share your idea with us. There is in the upper right-hand corner of our website is a nomination form. Please fill it out and let us know about someone we should interview. We hope you'll keep listening and subscribe to Second Act Stories on your favorite podcast app. Like us on Facebook, follow us on LinkedIn, and share us with your friends. Don't go away. There are more Second Act Stories just around the corner.